The Los Angeles Rams were a powerhouse in 2025. Led by their explosive offense, the Rams supported a QB1, a pair of wide receiver ones, a running back one, and a pair of tight ends that you could spot start in hopes of a huge spike week. They even had a defense that can give you matchup finding results from a position that is often ignored in fantasy. They were battling all season long to win their division, but lost that first seed and then the NFC Championship to the eventual Super Bowl champs. Let's break down this elite fantasy year for the Los Angeles Rams. Matt Stafford was not only the NFL MVP in 2025, but he was also by far the most valuable late round / free agent pickup in fantasy football this year. He ended the year as the QB3 despite rushing for a single yard. 1 yard, no touchdowns. The other 4 QBs in the top 5 all had over 300 yards rushing and at least 3 rushing touchdowns. That's just what happens when you lead the league in passing yards, 4,707, and touchdowns with 46. We haven't seen this type of production since Stafford arrived in LA back in 2021. Whatever happened in that weird rehab chamber must have worked wonders, because this was a ceiling season for a pocket passer like Stafford. But if you were able to snag him at a discount, you likely found yourself in the fantasy playoffs. The running back room in LA was somewhat set in stone before the season, and now sits somewhere just outside the timeshare territory. Starting with the running back 1, Kyren Williams did what he's done for the past 3 years now. He's a running back who has thrived on volume and has made the most of all of those opportunities. 1,200 yards on the ground, another 281 receiving, alongside 13 total touchdowns, earned him a spot in the top 10 at the position. He wasn't necessarily explosive this year, with his longest rush going for just 34 yards, which was 45th among all running backs, but he didn't need to be. It was the consistent nature of his play that helped fantasy managers, finishing under 10 points just 5 times during the season. Breathing down the neck of Kyren Williams, his second-year back, Blake Corum. Coming off a lower leg injury in the back half of 2024, Corum was barely playing for the large majority of the season. He didn't see double-digit carries until week 7, and never saw more than 3 targets outside of 1 game. Corum was largely TD dependent if you look to start him in your flex. However, what folks will want to remember, and what they will all talk about, is his 4-game stretch where he finished at the RB18, RB3, RB16, and RB21 in that span. Corum truthers will point to this block of games and tell you he's going to emerge soon enough, and as annoying as they are, they may be right. 746 yards and 6 touchdowns are all he tallied for 2025, so be wary of overdrafting the RB2 on the Rams depth chart. Keep him in mind as someone who can make a year 3 leap. What can we say about Puka Nacua that we don't already know? 129 receptions, 1,715 yards, 10 touchdowns, 19 points per game. That's what you get with the wide receiver 1 in fantasy. If it weren't for an injury against the Ravens, Nacua would have scored double-digit points in every single game this season in half PPR. Doesn't get better than that. Now with Stafford returning for another season, there's a very real conversation to be had about Puka Nacua going 1-1 in fantasy drafts in 2026. The Davante Adams experience on the Los Angeles Rams was a hilarious one. He had 14 touchdowns across 14 games. He finished the year as a wide receiver 8 despite just catching 60 passes for 789 yards. Adams was effectively the goal line back for the Rams, and it just kept working. It was very disappointing to see Adams disappear though during the most crucial part of the fantasy year, as he was a regular difference maker in your matchups. He will most likely be back in 2026 and will be another great value in drafts as managers wrestle with the idea of drafting a 33-year-old wide receiver 2 on the Rams offense. The tight end position was a weird one for the Rams in 2025. They regularly had 3 tight ends on the field, meaning one of Colby Parkinson, Terrence Ferguson, and when healthy, Tyler Higbee could be a streaming option. Dennis Allen was there as well, but he rarely saw targets. In fact, he had fewer targets than Higbee despite playing in 7 more games. Can't believe the Rams have us talking about a 4th-string tight end. Anyway, Colby Parkinson was the one to bring most fantasy value of the group. He hauled in 8 touchdowns, all of which came after the bye in week 8. He did haul in 2 of those in the week 18 matchup, so not super helpful for fantasy, but still worth noting as we look ahead to 2026. Parkinson proved to be a reliable target when the usual suspects couldn't get separation. On the other hand, we have rookie Terrence Ferguson, who didn't do much in his first year. He was routinely targeted on deep shots, but didn't see a ton of work when it came to running more high percentage routes. If you rostered him, you were begging for a touchdown, and when you didn't get a touchdown, it was usually a goose egg. He will be an interesting name to watch in 2026 to see if his role can grow to something far more reliable for fantasy. When we look ahead to 2026, there's not a ton the Rams need to repeat their 2025 success. Mainly, adding pieces to the defense won't hurt, as evidenced by the recent trade for the Kansas City Chiefs' Trent McDuffie, but there's not many spots left to fill. And though while not wildly fantasy relevant, the Rams could use some help on special teams. One too many dropped punts cost the Rams a shot at the Super Bowl title. If there are any armchair GMs in the comments, let us know what you think the Rams should do in the offseason heading into 2026.